This is Nancy Ridgway, the artistic director of R5 Productions. Tonight we present our final one-act play in the Playhouse Series, continuing to explore our theme of consequences with a suitable kind of woman, written by Alan Kilpatrick and directed by Michael Worden. Over the past few months, R5 Productions solicited and received over 60 original works from playwrights all over the world. Jim, Rob, and I read all and selected the 4 that have been presented this month. Tonight's production, A Suitable Kind of Woman, was written by Alan Kilpatrick. Alan is a Native American playwright and lives in Belgium. He is the author of some 30 plays which have been staged all over the world. He received his professional training in film and television at Loyola Marymount University and studied playwriting at the Royal Court Theatre in London with Stephen Jeffries. Making his directorial debut with R5 Productions and recently relocated from Los Angeles, we welcome Michael Worden. Michael is a seasoned actor and director with over 100 theatrical and film productions to his credit. Our theme is consequences. Consequences can be positive or negative. Everything we think and say and do has consequences for ourselves and for others. Like ripples on a pond, our actions spread out and affect others because everything is interconnected. And we need to remember that our actions are irreversible. Consequences are where our thoughts and our actions meet reality. Please hang around after the show tonight to meet the cast and crew for a short talkback. Thank you for your continued support of R5 Productions and enjoy the show.
I first heard about the exploits of Herr Hoffman in 1917 when the skies over Budapest were dark with the clouds of war. As chief inspector of the city police, I was obliged to maintain a modicum of order in the world gone mad, especially when a young woman named Sophia Peroska came to see me in my office.
Inspector Nagy?
Mademoiselle Peroska, please come in. Sit down.
Oh, thank you. So kind of you to see me. Oh, forgive me, I'm just so upset.
Now, how can I be of service?
It's my sister. I'm so worried about her.
Your sister is Catherine Varga, yes?
That's right. Varga is her married name. She's a widow, you see? Catherine and I, we've always been so close. She always writes or visits me. But it's been over a month now, and I haven't received a word from her, not a single word. It's not like her to suddenly break off all contacts. I'm afraid that something's happened to her.
She's never gone off before.
Never. But then she's been very upset about what happened with Herr Hoffman.
Herr Hoffman?
A man she met through the newspaper, a gentleman, said he was looking for a suitable mate.
Tell me more about this Herr Hoffman.
Oh, I cannot tell you much, for only once did I meet him, but he seemed quite refined, quiet, but refined, charming in a way, but aloof. He seemed to be quite taken with Catherine, and she to him. I warned her about rushing into marriage, but my sister seemed so happy, so looking forward to being with him. She told me he had proposed, and of course, Catherine was overwhelmed and quickly accepted.
So you had reservations?
Of course. But I shall tell you why. One day, Catherine invited all of us to have tea together so we could meet and make plans for the wedding. But throughout, I could see that Herr Hoffman was becoming very uncomfortable with me being there.
In what way did he appear uncomfortable?
Well, for one thing, he began to sweat. I mean, profusely, and he had this panicked and desperate look in his eyes. After a few moments, he jumped up, muttered something about urgent business, then bolted right out the door.
What urgent business?
Oh, that's just the point. He never said. He never explained anything. He simply canceled the whole wedding and vanished. Of course, Catherine was devastated, heartbroken. Poor thing. She felt so humiliated. What enraged her most were all his false promises. Here, read this.
My dear Catherine, I cannot bear the thought of waiting any longer to begin our precious life together. And so on and so on.
I ask you, does he not sound sincere?
I would say ardent, at least.
Finally, when she heard nothing more from him, she sought legal relief and brought a case against him in court for breach of contract. But on the very day she was supposed to appear and bear testimony, she vanished.
You suspect Herr Hoffman had a hand in this?
I most certainly do. The man's a complete scoundrel, a ruthless privateer, an unscrupulous cad who's made a career of seducing vulnerable women.
Did you try to contact this Herr Hoffman?
I went to his house. He lives in Sincota. Only his housekeeper was there. She was most unpleasant, slammed the door in my face. I tell you, something is going on in that house.
You may be right. It might gladden you to know that this is not the first complaint we've received regarding the activities of this Herr Hoffman. Normally, I'd send someone around to investigate. However, because of the ongoing hostilities, we find ourselves a bit short-handed in the terms of manpower.
But you will find my sister, won't you?
Madame Peroska, let me assure you that despite our present limitations, the Budapest police still function at the highest level. I shall take personal charge of the investigation. To assuage her fears, I sent two of my most reliable men to Herr Hoffman's residence, where they were met with hardened resistance from a housekeeper, a formidable woman named Madame Jakubec. Her implacable expression never wavered, not even when we discovered, to our astonishment and horror, the fiendish contents hidden in 7 mysterious metal containers kept in the basement by our elusive Herr Hoffman. Madame Jakubec, do come in, please. Sit down.
If you insist.
Well, it's a bit drafty in the hallway. I'm only thinking of your comfort.
Were you? Odd.
What's odd?
Never been in the police station before.
That, I assure you, is to your credit, madam. Would you care for some tea or coffee?
No, thank you, Inspector. How long will this take?
That's a curious question.
Is it?
You must understand why you're here.
You found some human remains on Herr Hoffman's property.
Not some. Parts of 17 bodies, to be exact. So, of course, as you were his housekeeper and as his whereabouts are presently unknown, We would be most interested in knowing exactly what was going on in that house.
I'm not sure I'm at liberty to speak.
Oh, and why is that? You realize, I hope, this is a very serious situation. You have an obligation to answer my questions.
What do you want to know?
How long were you employed by Herr Hoffman?
5 years.
You were his sole housekeeper?
I was.
On what basis did he employ you?
Herr Hoffman was looking for a suitable kind of woman, someone adept at cleaning, discreet in manner, and with a certain fluency with words. In other words, someone who could express herself. He found me entirely suitable.
Did he ask for references?
No, there was no need. I had been in service before, you see. I knew how to keep a house.
But isn't that a bit unusual, though? I mean, to trust a total stranger to take care of your house.
That's all he cared about, that I could be trusted. He was very emphatic about that. Herr Hoffman was a most unusual man.
So I'm coming to believe.
Anyway, I never gave him cause to complain.
Tell me, madam, how would you describe your employer?
A gentleman, not of great means, but a gentleman nevertheless.
Would you say he was a bit secretive?
He enjoyed his privacy, but surely that is not a crime.
You're aware that Herr Hoffman invited various women to the house.
Yes. He informed me that he would have guests over from time to time. After all, he was alone. I mean, after his wife left him.
Did you ever meet his wife?
No, sir, I did not. She was already gone by the time I entered his employ.
Did you ever see or meet any of these women who came to the house?
I may have. I don't remember.
Surely you must remember something. What did they look like?
Well-dressed, refined, my age, older. I never spoke to them.
Why not?
Sir, I'm a housekeeper, not a hostess.
Would you recognize their faces? Here. This is Catherine Varga, and this is Julianne Pashik. Did you ever see either of these women before? You haven't looked. Look again. No? It seems that both Pashik and Varga had brought a breach of marriage suit against Herr Hoffman, and both disappeared before the trial could begin.
Perhaps they changed their minds.
I sincerely doubt that, madam. Madam, you display a remarkable degree of sang-froid concerning the fate of these women.
Perhaps. At any rate, I can tell you nothing about them. You must understand that most of the time I just cleaned up after they were gone.
Ever find any blood stains in the house? I mean, after you were cleaning up.
No, sir, not a drop.
You must have been thorough.
I tried to be.
When your employer was conscripted into the military, he left you in charge of the house, did he not?
He said I was to maintain the house till he returned from the front, yes.
So he must have shown you the metal containers.
He may have.
May have. Most assuredly did. There were 7 of those blasted things, and they were all quite large. Did he tell you what was in them?
I was led to believe that they contained petrol for the war effort.
Petrol! Madame Jakubec, I don't think you've been entirely forthcoming.
I've told you what I know.
Then tell me about these.
He gave me those keys, told me to watch over them with great care and on no account turn them over to strangers. And I wouldn't have normally if I had been given a chance.
But you know why we needed them.
Of course I did. They were for his secret room. I'm not a fool.
Why were you so reluctant to tell us about that?
He made me promise not to tell anyone. It was his private office, said he had important papers in it.
Did you ever see any of these important papers?
No, sir. He didn't show them to me, and I never asked.
Madame Jakubec, did you ever hear Herr Hoffman refer to himself as Herr Kaiser?
No, sir.
You never saw any correspondence addressed to an Herr Kaiser?
I don't remember.
We found these papers among his effects. They appear to be love letters. May I read you a few lines?
As you wish.
This one's addressed to Katerina Varga, whose pickled remains are still floating in one of those metal containers you say you know nothing about. Listen to this. Enraptured by your image, entranced by your words, I burn with the most exquisite desire to whisper my deepest longings into your ear.
What's wrong with romance?
Turns my stomach, quite frankly. Here's how he described himself. First, he goes on about being 40 and single and all that. Then he writes, "What kind of man am I? A man known to be kind, attentive, gifted with wit, and clever with money." Has a healthy regard for himself, doesn't he? Here, he says he's keen to discover a suitable kind of woman to explore their wildest dreams. Here, he describes what kind of marriage partner he's seeking. Must she be endowed with physical beauty? Well, to a point. But more importantly, he goes on, she must be sympathetic, understanding, obedient, and compliant. Compliant enough for him to strangle the life out of her and stuff her into one of those barrels.
Why are you showing me these things?
Because, madam, I believe this is not his handwriting. It's your handwriting, isn't it? You wrote these letters, didn't you? Well?
Yes and no.
What kind of answer is that?
You see, Herr Hoffman's own scrawl was unreadable. He needed someone with a clear and steady penmanship. So he dictated, and I diligently recorded what he said.
How clever.
What do you mean by that?
By having you pen the letters, Herr Hoffman, or Herr Kaiser if you prefer, could easily deny he ever wrote them.
I don't think that was his intention.
No? Then what was it? 5 years. 5 years, madam, you were in his employ, yet you never once questioned the strange goings on in that house.
It was not my place to say anything.
You never mentioned Hoffman's strange behavior to anyone else.
Why should I? After all, who could I confide in? A woman in my position.
You must have had a friend, confidant, someone you could talk to.
No one, not a single soul. Herr Hoffman used to say, all these lonely, lovesick women, they're like lemmings hurling themselves at me, all for the sake of a well-placed word. I could understand that longing. I feel it enough myself.
Feelings aside, I'd like you to consider your present situation. As I see it, you can be charged with, at a minimum, withholding evidence. You could just as well be charged as an accessory to murder. So I'd advise you to cooperate with me.
But I am cooperating. I've told you everything I know.
Not quite everything. Now, prior to your employment with Herr Hoffman, you held a similar position with a Madame Polanski, is that correct?
That's right.
I understand you were discharged. May I ask the reason?
We didn't get along.
Isn't it true that Madame Polanski accused you of stealing a family heirloom?
Servants are often blamed for such things. It's a convenient way of not paying your wages. They get their work out of you and then let you go.
Was that the case with Madame Polanski?
I just said it was.
Madam, are you still married?
No, I'm a widow.
When did you lose your husband, may I ask?
Some years ago, he was lost at sea.
Any children?
Heavens, no. What would I do with them? As you can see, I've been on my own for quite some time.
Madam, I want to show you one last thing. We found this letter in your effects, dated last month and written in the unruly hand of Herr Hoffman.
We would correspond from time to time.
Shall I read it to you? It begins, "My dear Emily," why would he address you in such a familiar fashion? Were you two on intimate terms?
Don't be ridiculous.
They want us to advance from our trenches, but The more we move, the more we hear the blast of bombs and see the splattering of bodies, blah, 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 blah. Then he ends with this: despite whatever happens, I trust my secrets are safe with you. Remember the terms of my will, yours, Herr Hoffman. What were the terms of his will?
I don't know.
You must have some idea.
I just told you I don't know.
Where are the other letters?
In my bedroom drawer.
These secrets he mentioned, they're obviously about the missing women, aren't they? Well, aren't they?
You don't know what it's like being a woman alone in this world. You don't realize how many souls there are out there who live without love, without anyone caring. You don't realize what a kind word can do. For all his faults, Herr Hoffman brought a certain beauty into their lonely existence with his letters.
Your letters, you mean?
Very well, my letters.
Excuse me. Nagi. Yes? Ah, yes. Excellent. Good work. Where is he now? A field hospital? In Valjevo. You have the address? Oh, wait. Let me write this down. Who is this doctor's? What is his number? 77108? No. 77105. All right. They found Hoffman. He's been wounded. He's in a military hospital in Valjevo. All right, listen, don't call the hospital. Just telegraph the doctor. Tell him we're on our way. Tell him to hold Hoffman till we arrive, but not a word to anyone. Understand? We can't take a chance he'll be warned. All right. I'll wait for you out front. Goodbye. I'm sorry, Madame Jakubec, but we'll have to postpone our little chat. I'm off to Valjevo.
Operator, connect me to the military hospital in Valjevo. The number, I believe, is 77105. Thank you. And hurry, please. Hello? Hello? Is this the military hospital? What? I don't understand. What did you say? But the operator said...
Madame Jakubec, I'm afraid you can't help him. You see, Herr Hoffman's no longer there.
Where is he?
Buried somewhere along the Eastern Front, I suspect.
He's dead?
Quite dead.
And you knew this?
Since yesterday.
But this?
Just a ruse to find you out. You see, madam, your whole testimony until now has been filled with nothing but lies and omissions. I've had to twist every truthful word out of you. This was most curious. So I've had to ask myself, why? Why would a woman behave in such a manner? Why would she go to such extremes to lead us astray? Can it be that she has such a deep feeling for this man that she's willing to protect him even at her own peril? I understand now that you had no ordinary relationship with Herr Hoffman, but a real affair of the heart. Madame Jakubec, you'd better come with me.
Great job, everybody. You can turn your cameras on so we can introduce ourselves to our audience. That was really great. That was good. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We're going to have a little talk back, and you can put your questions into the chat. I think I see a few questions coming in. I'm just going to go around the screen here and introduce everybody. I ask everybody to introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with you, Brian. Just, tell us, introduce yourself to us and to the audience.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Kelly, actor and a teacher sometimes too. And excited to have been a part of these R5 productions during the COVID. It's a nice way to stay acting.
And Brian, you're a teacher, correct?
Correct.
That's your day job a little bit. Okay. I'm Nancy Ridgway, Artistic Director of R5 Productions. Sandy?
Hi, my name's Sandra Hartman. I played Madame Jakubec, and I'm an actor, singer, teacher, sometimes director of opera. And it's been really fun doing these radio plays during COVID, and I'm so glad that we're continuing them now.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Stephanie?
Hey, I'm Stephanie Rogers, really psyched to do another one of these radio plays. They've been fun. I guess it's been like 2 years that we've been doing them, which is amazing when I think about it. So cool. And yes, always happy to do a project like this over Zoom or live, wherever I can. So
that's great. Jim?
Jim McIntosh. I'm the technical director here for R5 Productions and also the composer. These 2 years worth of R5 Productions have given me the opportunity to start writing music for these shows. So it's been a pleasure.
And finally, Michael, our director.
Hi, I'm Michael Worden. I'm the director. I just recently relocated from the West Coast out here to the East Coast. Really happy and excited to be involved in this production to get my feet wet on East Coast theater.
It's been great having you. We're so glad that you agreed to do this. So Jim, there's a couple questions there. Can you read them off?
Sure. So I would say, taking a look, this is Brad Ogden has sent in a couple. So for Michael, what drew you to this play and how would you see it translating to an on-stage production, an actual live theater in the round?
Great question.
Yeah. I reached out to Nancy when they originally posted that they were looking for directors, and I really wanted to get involved in theater out here. And I really liked the group. I looked at when she originally posted it. I watched a few of the other shows that you had done last year. I was like, oh, this is a good group. This is something I really want to do. I didn't really pick the production. This was picked by the producers, by Nancy, yourself. You guys picked it, and then I read it, loved it, thought it was wonderful, and would love the opportunity. How would translate on stage? I think you could do it on stage. It's really written. It seems to me like it is an audio radio play. You could space it out a little more. You could have a little more tension if you were in person. Yeah, I think that this one lends itself better to an audio only production.
It's great.
And then Nancy, taking a look what else Brad had. He goes, for you, me, and Rob, what's next up for R5? He's already talking about the future. Maybe we'll save that one for the end. We can ask other questions and come back to Brad.
Yeah, I'll answer that, when we get to the end. I just wanted to kind of start the conversation a little bit about this particular piece. Unfortunately, Alan Kilpatrick couldn't join us tonight, but I would have loved to pick his brain a little bit. But I just love the whole concept. It's very different. It's set in a time period, and then it's got all that thriller, true crime stuff that we all are attracted to these days, right? I guess one of the things, and maybe I'll pose the first question to Stephanie, is about your character is worried about her sister, and it's just such an old-fashioned concept that the way it's 1917, and how someone would meet a man, and then he was looking for a suitable kind of woman. I mean, it was just like kind of like a real old-fashioned kind of thing, but it really had a different context to it. So, what were you thinking?
Yeah, it's like the original Catfish. So I mean, the same thing is happening. Hopefully not, the remains of 17 women, but
Right.
I mean, the Tinder swindler and, all of these kinds of phenomena that are out there. And, what Madame, I can't say the Jakubec, says is it's true. There's people out there that prey on the vulnerabilities of women. And I certainly have friends where that's happened, so I can completely, I mean, it's amazing. It's kind of ageless. So
Yeah. It happens all the time. That's for sure.
absolutely. Yeah,
And-
absolutely.
And Sandy, what do you think of this, Ms. Jakubec? I mean, what's her, because she knew what was going on.
I know. Well, it's funny because he's looking for a suitable kind of woman, but she refers to herself as a suitable kind of woman. He was looking for the suitable kind of housekeeper.
I loved that. Yeah.
She is that, and I just think that she's in love with him.
Yeah.
And she would do anything for him, and just close her eyes to all the atrocities.
Yeah.
And think that maybe those women deserved it.
Yeah, could be.
What I found interesting with this is, we don't meet Herr Hoffman. So the audience puts together who this person is based off of the description of the two women, of who is this person and what motivates him and why is he doing it. And I think with Sandra's character, you're like, well, wait a minute, is she willing? Is she being drawn in just like the other women? So it really lends itself to, wanting to know more of this, who Herr Hoffman is. Even though we never meet him, it's only put together from the description of the two women.
Yeah. And Brian, your character really is dependent on Madame Jakubec admitting to what's been happening in order to kind of close this whole case out. So I thought it was really great the way it's kind of that typical asking questions that you already know the answer to,
Yeah, that's something we explored. Michael brought it up that the detective definitely knows.
Yeah.
And so it's exactly what you said. He's asking questions, but it's frustrating because she's we talked about this too. She's cool as a cucumber, but he's trying to be cool as a cucumber.
Right.
And they both have their moments where they can't keep the coolness up, but it's like a cool off, they're both trying to be, keep their cool.
Yep.
Well, one of the things I noticed, Brian, with your performance, and I think this goes back to also Michael, probably some of Michael's direction too. It sounds like you guys were in one room, but you are separated. You're not even in the same room. You're not with each other, but the interactions you had, and Brian, I particularly noticed it in this run through, where the timing was just great, especially between you and the ladies on each individual thing. Especially when you look at that, we know that the inspector knows the story.
Right.
Yeah.
So the way you were asking the questions really came through well, I thought, in the performance. A very nice job there.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was great. It was really great. So, Michael, talk a little bit about directing, in a radio play or an audio like this. Have you? I think you've done this before, but I want to just kind of know what your experience and in doing this and stuff like that.
Sure, it's a different skill set that we've all everyone who's been doing this has had to learn over the last couple of years, right? It's a new skill set. Even as some shows are opening up, on stage and stuff, it's a completely different way. I feel sorry, I'm just looking for the words. So I'm really comfortable doing this. I really like it. And one of the reasons I like it is it goes back to, I've done a lot of coaching for auditions, and I did a lot of that through Zoom previously from before I started directing these shows. So it's really just a way of transferring those skills into this. I really liked it though. This cast that is just fantastic. All three of them were just great to work with. It was very little on my part, honestly, to get where we need to go. And it's good because we just talk through things. We just discuss the play as a whole. We were all seeing different things from reading it, and so we were able to bring it as a group together. And that's kind of the way I direct. It's like it's a whole collaborative effort where we're all involved. Yeah.
Me too. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Are there any other questions there, Jim?
Not coming through online. If anybody does have a question, please just type it in the chat and I'll read it. But I did have a question from Michael, because Michael provided the images. As part of this, the directors can give what their thoughts and feelings and put in the images. So Michael, when I first saw the postcards, I thought it was great, and that it was all postcards. What drew you to them? How did you discover them? What made you choose them? What was your thought process behind it?
Sure. When we first started out, I knew we had to have some images that are going to go on screen. So I just started by searching for images of early 1900 Hungary. That's all I was doing at first. And I was finding some that I liked and saving some here and there. But the one that stuck out to me is, if you remember, if you go back and watch it again, there's a postcard of two men standing off to the side and one woman by herself. And that image, I was like, okay, they're talking about the letters throughout the show. So we'll just set the scene of these letters. And then once I found that, I was like, I think I can find other Hungarian postcards from the early. And I was just finding the ones that felt would fit with the show and fit with the whole theme and what we were going for. I really liked a lot of those. I thought that they had some great imagery of setting up Budapest and the countrysides of Hungary and stuff.
Yeah, and the one thing I really appreciate about that, Michael, and I know this is your first work with R5 Productions, but as we've developed over the past 2 years, we took on certain image types for each different production. So it was like you fit in so well, and the vision and just doing the postcards, I thought it was just fantastic. So
thank you. Thank you.
It was really great. Okay.
So Nancy, do you want to address Brad's question now for you, me, and Rob? What's next for R5 Productions?
Well, we don't have anything definitively decided yet. You and Rob and I have to get together and kind of talk about things, but I have a couple of ideas. I'd like to see us do something in October around Halloween. And I have two ideas that I want to discuss with you guys, and hopefully we will be able to, pull that together. And, until we make that decision, I can't really say too much more about it. The only other thing I will add is that now that things are opening up again, I would love to see us continue to do our online, but also do a live show. And I think there's a way that we can do that. I mean, we could probably do both. And I think it would be something that we need to explore and talk about. It's just a matter of, figuring out cost and those kinds of things, because this is relatively, free. This costs me.
Well, not free. It's inexpensive.
It's inexpensive. I mean,
costs, which is why we ask if anybody would like to contribute.
Right. I mean, if we, it's the cost of a Zoom account and a YouTube premium, subscription. And if we license a show, we have to, we do pay for it and stuff like that. So there are some costs involved, but, and that's something that we need to kind of like figure out, but we definitely are going to be doing something. And I feel like I found two projects that I want to talk to you guys about, and then we can make up our mind and get going. But because we have a great group of people to work with, and Michael's on board now, and Chima, and he had some wonderful actors, that he's introduced us to. So we've got a great group of people to work with, and I'd like to continue that.
And I look at it as a continuing evolution. I mean, this project started because of the pandemic.
Yep.
And everybody was home, and there were no live shows, so we knew a lot of people that to keep their chops up as for performing. And we all learned and grow. I mean, you go back and look at the first show and how we evolved over time.
Yeah, for sure.
Technology, Zoom has gotten better.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So I think that as we look forward to the future of R5, it also needs to evolve, because we do have shows coming back on stage.
Yeah.
But I think we did find a niche that we can really work with and expand and grow.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, this has been, this has been,
Paige did say great job all. I just
oh,
want to
thank you,
nice.
Paige.
Thanks, Paige.
Thank you, Pete.
and Brad also thanked us, said congrats and thanks for the thoughtful answers in the discussion.
Well, we have, in addition to, our wonderful, cast of characters that we always seem to twist them around our finger to get them on board to do this, and adding Michael and Shima, we do have some great people that support us behind the scenes. And one person I'd like to acknowledge is Brad Ogden, who does all of our graphic design work. So everything that you see, from the R5 production logo to all of the logos that come out on Instagram, Facebook, and here on YouTube, they were all done, by him. And he and I have worked together for a really long time. I've known Brad, since he was, in middle school, and we're like, we sort of answer, each other. We think alike, and I always can just talk to him and say, I kind of want this look and feel to it, or give him some sort of a, just some ideas. I have a tendency not to be very specific because I'm very much an image person and vision, and it's like, I need it to be this and I need it to be that. And he's like, all right, I think I see where you're going. But he comes up with some great stuff, and I couldn't be prouder. And I'm so glad to have him on board with us, and to all of our families who support us too. So anyway, well, we're coming up on 8:15. I want to give everybody back their evening, but thank you everyone for joining us. And stay tuned for more to come from R5 Productions. And I'm going to end the live stream now, but cast and crew, stay on. So good night, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Thank
Goodbye
you.
all.
Good night, everybody.